And welcome back to JKLive here at Citizen Television. Goodness gracious me, I never thought I would ever get the Grand Mullah and the man with the crystal ball, Professor Mutunga, to agree on anything. Tonight seems like they're agreeing. In fact, here's a tweet just in. Eric Den says, here's another night where Citizen brings together two anti-Uhuru panelists to verbally lynch the president. We're not all against Uhuru.
No, but I mean, that's not fair. I mean, probably, but I voted for Uhuru 3 times. We have bought into his agenda. We are his fans, loyal supporters. But you know, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We gave him a chance to rule us and rule us according to the law. When he fails, we call him out. And that's what basically many people like me are doing. That despite the fact that we have supported him, despite the fact that we were loyal to him, I mean, we are not blind because we have no obligation to be blind. We have an obligation to see the right thing. And I think, to be fair, I mean, the last 4 or 5 years have been a disaster for Uhuru. I mean, and it's unfortunate because, you know, the expectation, the hope. I mean, if there was one guy who everybody, especially someone like me, thought will change this country, was Uhuru. But he has taken us back.
You're always talking about your jubilee. I see you tweeting about my jubilee, my jubilee. I don't know if that's tongue-in-cheek, but what is the future of Jubilee as you see it right now?
I think Jubilee will go like the way of many other parties. You know, it will be after 2022. I think it will be a small party, maybe have some few MCS, 1 or 2 MPs, you know, 1 woman representative, something like that. But Jubilee has no future. I mean, I think Murade can have the caucus if he will be there. I mean, it has no future. I mean, when you are in power for almost 10 years with different names, I mean, you know, parties in Kenya are the flag bearer. So once Uhuru retires, and then the deputy president tries his luck with another party, Jubilee is dead. And you know, Jubilee the last few years wasted a lot of time saying they will expel anybody who expressed an opinion. I mean, people lost interest. I don't think they have anybody to expel anymore.
Yeah, Prof, when it comes to ODM, remember ODM used to be the former opposition? What happened to that? There is no opposition anymore.
Well, let me just, can I just say something about what Hamid said? You know, it's and what you said that you brought together two anti-Uhuru, panelists. It's not true. The Grand Mullah is not anti-Uhuru, and to the extent that he's expressing bias remorse, it's because it's clear that Mr. Kenyatta has failed. So if he's become anti-Uhuru, I want to posit that he is the one who has come to my side over time. On this question that he supported Mr. Kenyatta 3 times, that he thought Mr. Kenyatta would transform the country. You know, let me remind Hamid, who is a fine lawyer and a great political mind, that when you elect leaders, you elect them on their record, you elect them on their history, you elect them on what they have done in the past. You don't just go and elect people simply because you think they'll be great leaders. You elect them because you can measure, and assess what they have done so that you can predict what they might do in the future. In that respect, what can, Ahmed Nasser tell us that Mr. Kenyatta had done before he was elected in 2013 to warrant the support of Mr. Ahmed Nasser and others? If I recall correctly, he was indicted for crimes against humanity at the Hague with his running mate.
Yeah, but those charges were thrown out.
Is that a credential, that we should take seriously?
But Prof, those charges were thrown out, you know that.
What did Raila do when he was campaigning for him?
There was nothing there. There was nothing there. And certainly, you cannot compare Mr. Kenyatta's history and Mr. Ruto's history with Mr. Odinga. You just cannot compare the two. It's like night and day. I just want you to be honest about that. On the question of political parties, let me just say this. On the question of political parties in Kenya do not survive the cycle of the presidency. They just don't. They die. Do you remember PNU? Do you remember that political party? It died.
LDP.
You remember TNA or URP? They died. You know, so the fact that you believe going to die is not strange.
Grand Mullah just mentioned LDP as well. Don't forget.
These are not political parties. These are just legal frauds constructed for people to get votes. That's what they are. In fact, in this respect, I should say that that ODM itself has survived longer than many of these others. Because it for a long time, ODM had a left of center, somewhat progressive, ideology. The others did not. So that's very important, to keep in mind. As for the future of ODM, to answer your question, Jeff, I think ODM is badly wounded. And it's badly wounded because the people who lead ODM, not just Mr. Odinga, but also, the people who are elected on that ticket.
All right.
You see the difference between...
Go on.
The country is being cannibalized by Mr. Kenyatta, and ODM is silent.
Okay.
I think the difference between me and the professor is that he's a die-hard loyalist of ODM and its, apparatus and structures. When he tells Kenyans that ODM is a progressive party, where does he get that idea that ODM has any progressive idea or represents anything that anyone should take serious? I mean, I'm honest enough to say that, I supported Jubilee, I supported the president, but when they disappoint, when they don't perform, I mean, we tell the world and we criticize. He's not like that. I mean, he's an ideologue within ODM, and that's why he's saying ODM. That's why he's saying it's a progressive party. That's why he's saying Raila has done a lot for this country, and he said you can't compare to...
hang on, Prof. Prof, hang on. Hang on, Prof.
He's reading for us party manifestos.
What is that? Okay, hold on, Prof.
I just want to say this to you.
Hold on. I'll get to you in a moment, Prof. Hold on. All right, stand by, Prof. Stand by. Let me ask you this. So what does that say about UDA then, which is associated with Deputy President William Ruto? What does that say about that, as the new kid on the block?
No, we don't know what UDA represents. We have to interrogate it when it comes at the right time. Of course, Kenyan parties, as everybody knows, politicians change shots. Today it's UDA, tomorrow it's another party. But I mean, we're dealing basically with the same crop of politicians, who are jumping from one party to the other. But we need to be interrogated. We need to be a little bit more critical, even when there's a new party like UDA comes here. But I am not in the same school with Prof, who supports his party through thick and thin, who has the temerity, to say that it's a progressive party. It stands for nothing. If it is for nothing, they will not have been they should not have been kneeling down next to the president.
Prof, I think...
Hamid, why are you expressing these extremist views about a political party that has a history of bringing change to Kenya?
Which change?
I mean, look, obviously you have not read Kenya's constitutional history.
I have read, and
Mr. Odinga, who leads ODM, has a stellar history in fighting for reforms in Kenya.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
So we are very disappointed by the last 3 years that he's been with Mr. Kenyatta. But you cannot just wipe away the man's history of fighting for change. The constitution that you enjoy today, he had a lot to do with it,
Jeff,
along with many other people.
Go on, Prof. Hold on, Prof.
What can you show me?
Stand by, Prof.
Go on, what can you show me that Mr. Kenyatta has done?
I mean,
okay, stand by.
That Mr. Ruto has done for change.
We had your point.
I mean,
show me one thing, please.
Prof makes this mistake every month of the year because he thinks the certain politicians' pursuit for power is equal to change or reform. That's the mistake he makes. He can't make that distinction. There are many politicians who have spent a lot of time or a lot of their career to capture power. And they have done everything. Coalition building, a lot of other activities, creating rights. That is pursuing power. It's not reform. Reform agenda is different. If you look at, for example, someone like Professor Kibwana, or even William Mutunga when he started the forces, Professor Kibwana has history of pursuing change and reform. Other politicians have history of pursuing attempts to grab power, whether they become a coalition with KANU, whether they form another coalition with Kibaki, whether they form a handshake with, all these are attempts to capture power. This is attempts, pursuit of power. It's not reform. And that is the mistake Prof is making.
Yeah, I mean, Hamid, let me just correct one or two things there. And perhaps I think you need some orientation in political science, not just law. Why do I say that? I say that because the purpose of playing in politics, the purpose of getting into politics is to achieve political power. Okay? That is the purpose. And if you get into politics and you're not pursuing political power or state power, you are engaged in malpractice, and no one should follow you. Now, let me tell you something. When you pursue political power in the real world, things are not as black and white as they would be if you are not pursuing political power. That is why people make compromises in politics. This is reality, my friend. So the fact that a person makes a coalition here or makes another coalition there that some people might not find to be kosher, that is part of politics. Get that straight.
But that's not reform.
Yeah, but Prof, okay, speaking of coalition, what do you think of the One Kenya Alliance? The one with Gideon Moi, Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula. That's an alliance. Isn't that politics like you're saying as well?
Yeah, it is politics, and of course I make a distinction, and I think this is what my friend Amenasa is trying to do. I make a distinction between infertile coalition and fertile coalition. Some coalitions have no fertility, they are sterile. The One Kenya Alliance is a coalition that has no purpose. Even the political purpose is not evident to me, because whether Mr. Musyoka, Mr. Mudavadi, and Mr. Wetangula and Mr. Moi come together, they cannot be able to achieve political power that way. It's just a pipe dream. They will not be able to do it. And that's why they are hanging in there trying to see if Mr. Kenyatta can endorse it. That's a coalition that is not going anywhere.
Okay,
because it lacks energy, it lacks leadership, it lacks purpose, it lacks just the oomph to be able to go forward. So I mean, Hamid, I think you should revise your understanding of politics. It is not a pure game, and that's why a lot of us are not in politics, because we'd be forced to make some compromises that are very, very, unseemly. And that's why I never ran for political office.
All right.
I don't want to make those kinds of compromises.
Let me ask
when you run for office, you must make those compromises.
Let me ask the Grand Mullah his thoughts.
The question is, are you going to shake, the devil's hand, and do everything that the devil wants you to do? That is the question.
What do you think of this One Kenya Alliance?
I mean, they live in hope, as Prof said. They live in hope that the president will endorse them. But I agree with the Prof that even if the president endorses one of them, that will take them nowhere, in my view. So they are. I think they are discussing how to build coalitions. It's not a very powerful or potent coalition, but I think there's nothing wrong with coming together, trying to see whether they can build a winning coalition. It's a long shot, very long shot. Yes.
So what does the future hold? The next 12 to 14 months then?
I think politicians will organize themselves, they will build the coalitions, and the president will try to see whether he can get someone who can run against his deputy or the prime minister. The next 5 years is, the next 12 months or 13 months is time to prepare for 2022. And I think that will start in earnest once we reach, September, October, November, and it will be game on from that time.
So coming back to the president and his deputy, that marriage ended a long time ago.
I think the consensus now, it has ended a long time ago. Yes, it's no longer in doubt that it ended long time ago. And that's why I think many people are seeing that basically the last, 3-4 years, I mean, it was a one-man rule. The executive was one man. The president could do what he wants. And if he was focused, he could have done a lot. But, I mean, the president jumped from, that big four agenda. It fizzled out quickly. I think it lost a lot of money. Now it's BBI. BBI again has collapsed completely. So maybe I don't know what is the next agenda. Maybe judicial reforms?
Prof, someone once said there's no such thing as political enemies. You could see Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga coming together. You could see that. You can't rule it out.
Of course. I mean, first of all, those two people have worked together before. So it would not shock anyone if they were to work together again.
But ask him, what will Raila add?
So let me just say this, though, that the only way they can work together, as a political unit, is if Mr. Ruto was to support Mr. Odinga. There is no way that Mr. Odinga can run under Mr. Ruto. It's just not going to happen.
Why not, Prof? Why not?
That's just a fact. Now I think some of these people are banking on BBI, thinking that perhaps that will allow them to create an expanded executive in which perhaps someone like Mr. Ruto could be enticed to be the prime minister because he's younger, he has a longer runway, he can wait. Mr. Odinga doesn't have that kind of time to wait. That's one thing that could happen. The other thing that could happen, Jeff, is simply that that these individuals, themselves do not gain traction. Mr. Ruto does not gain traction by himself. Mr. Odinga does not gain traction because of the damage that he has taken from his association with Mr. Kenyatta. And the other three individuals there, Mr. Musalia Mudavadi, Mr. Musyoka, and Mr. Wetangula, don't have really the oomph to go forward with it. So we could see another candidate. This is a possibility. We could see someone else. I mean, there's Mukisa Kitui, Dr. Mukisa Kitui was there. A highly qualified individual, an individual who has international experience, a person who, as far as I know, I could be proven wrong, is not corrupt. There's someone like that out there.
Okay, Graham,
Kenyans cannot. Let me just make this one more point. Kenyans cannot continue to elect the same individual and then expect that things will change.
And yet we do.
For example, Jeff.
And yet we do, Prof. We do that all the time.
A son, for example, your son comes to you and your son puts his finger next to the stove and he gets burned. And you tell him that, you know what, son, fire does burn people. Do not do that again. If he comes back and does the same thing again, there's one word for that. And that word is stupid. Okay?
All right.
That word is stupid. If someone keeps doing the same thing
all over again, expecting a different, it's actually insanity. All right, Graham, what do you think? Could these two get together? Raila,
I mean, Prof, that's the dream of Professor Macau for this team to get, for the two to come together so that this guy can have some relevance. But I always, we talk a lot, and I always tell him, what will Raila bring to the table in a union with Ruto? He brings nothing. The candidature, in my view, the candidature of Raila is premised on Raila running against him.
But don't forget the Pentagon, 2007.
That's a long time ago. The dynamics was different. But now, if you look at the ethnic constituency of the deputy prime minister, it gets excited, it gets energized if Raila is running against them. But if they come together, I mean, Raila is not as potent political force as he was prior to the handshake. The handshake, in my view, damaged him a lot. He become a poodle. He become, a stooge. He become someone who opposed all his life the presidency of Uhuru, who is now doing, running his errands. That was damaging for Raila. And contrary to the Prof, Kenyan politics, the Kenyan political system does not allow a stranger to come to the scene and create a wave. No. You must be you must start somewhere as an MCA, you must become an MP, you must become part of the system, you must, you know, struggle for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, or even 50 years to become a player in Kenya. And that is why the players in this country are almost all the same. I mean, they don't change. I mean so,
but Hamid, that's a kind of mentality that allows Kenya to stay where it is.
But it's the reality. You can't change that.
The ground is not different. The voting electric is not different.
No. It's the same. It's the same. It's ethnic based. So everybody will come with his tribal kingpin. Yes.
It's a very sad. It's a sad statement. That
absolutely.
Because you are telling us that our hands are tied, that we are condemned to live with these 4 or 5 people, and that nothing else can change. That is fundamentally wrong. I think you should be able to imagine a larger destiny for Kenya.
But Prof,
and you, as an intellectual, should tell Kenyans that there is a possibility. Where, for example, would Barack Obama have come from?
No, let us be realistic.
No. But the United States is a much more difficult place for a black man.
Prof is an idealist. He is theory.
Stand by, Prof. Stand by. Go on.
I think, Prof, you are an idealist. I mean, you are reading from a textbook. I'm reading from the empirical. We live in a reality that's called Kenya. And in Kenya, if you come today, for example, from New York and say you want to become an MCA in your local village, you will get maybe 3 or 4 votes. Because with all your ideas, with all your CV, they don't appreciate it. They want the local guy who runs a kiosk, who is into that local politics. That is the Kenya for you.
No, Ahmed, I think you're just trying to provoke me. Let me tell you something. You're just trying to provoke me.
But he makes a point, Prof. He makes a point there.
I'll just say this to you. I'll just say that, our job as intellectuals, you and I, is to try to give the country a chance to think beyond the bounds.
Yeah, but the country thinks differently, Prof. The country
is not simply to reflect what people call reality. Our job is to try to create a new reality.
Yeah, but Prof, they say
that's why you supported William Mutunga for the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. He was not from the usual suspects.
But Prof,
he was a different kind of a guy.
Prof,
he was an academic. He was progressive. That's why you supported him.
And that's why they say ground veto is different.
Ground is different.
You're looking at it from a different vantage point, Prof. It's a totally different perspective. On the ground, things are different. People will go for the populist.
Yes. People they know.
Because Jeff, things are different until they are not. Things are only different until they are not. Let me just say this to you, Jeff. Even for you, when you went and began your career in New York, and then you went and became this world famous CNN, reporter, who knew that a kid from Kiambu could do that? You did it. So let us not tell people that there are no possibilities, that nothing can change. That's a mentality of enslavement. Let us free our people. Let us free our voters. Let us tell them that they can do it, that they can bring change. That's our job, Hamid. Our job is not simply to say, we are condemned to live with Mr. Kenyatta, we are condemned to live with Mr. Musyoka, Mr. Odinga, and so on. That's such a poverty of philosophy. And Hamid, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for believing that.
No, you have to internalize the reality. I'm not obsessed with abstract, the idealistic issues you are pursuing.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about, speaking of change, Tanzania. In 3 months, things literally turned 180 degrees. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
Hold on, Prof. Hold on. I'll get to you, Prof. Grant, hold on.
But you see, that is change that came by accident.
Okay. No, but they are not, Tanzania, like most African states and most states, are very patriarchal.
All right, let the Grand Mullah...
You cannot imagine a woman being president.
Let the Grand Mullah speak.
For African elites to imagine.
Yeah, but you see, Prof, you have to admit that the change in Tanzania was not an engineered change. It was by accident. I mean...
No, it was not by accident, by the way.
What do you mean?
By accident. Mr. Magufuli, the late president,
yes,
saw something in President Samia.
No, that's not true.
Prof, you can't, I mean, you can't...
And made that deputy. And if you know the history of Tanzania, the person who becomes the vice president ends up becoming the president. This is
No.
But that was by accident.
No.
Vice presidents are the ones
what Prof doesn't know, that if you look at the structure and the agenda of CCM, the next presidential candidate after Magufuli was supposed to be the president of Zanzibar. That is the guy, Hassan Ali Mwinyi's son. That is the guy who was supposed to run next after Magufuli. So this lady is president by chance. It's an act of God. So contrary to what Prof thinks, is that, I mean, the dynamics of CCM was greatly changed by this event that occurred, in my view.
No. Ahmed, let me tell you something. I don't want to say more about Tanzania here, but let me just tell you this. First of all, Samia Suluhu is from Zanzibar. Okay, she's from Zanzibar. So if she would have succeeded Magufuli, who was from the mainland anyway, just go back and look at the history of Tanzania. The vice president of CCM, either they become president or the person from Zanzibar becomes president to alternate. That's how it works.
But Magufuli was not vice president. Ask him whether Magufuli was vice president.
I know you are friends in Tanzania. Yeah. You speak to them. Speak to them and they'll tell you the calculus that went into selecting President Samia Suluhu Hassan as Magufuli's running mate. There's no mystery about that, by the way, from my information. No mystery at all.
All right, let's switch to another country next door. Uganda held elections as well, Prof, while you were away. And Bobby Wine gave long-running President Yoweri Museveni a run for his money this time. Does that mean change? Yeah. Hold on, Prof, hold on. Grand Mullah, your thoughts?
I'm here. I am here. I was going to say that.
I'll get to you. I'll get to you in a moment, Prof. I was asking the Grand Mullah. Stand by. Stand by, Prof.
But I mean, I think for students of politics and law, the dynamics provided by the 3 East African countries is very intriguing and interesting. I mean, to be fair, Kenya is more advanced in, in terms of constitutional development, in terms of our governance structure, in terms of our democracy. I mean, we are much ahead of Tanzania and Uganda, because Tanzania during Magufuli's time was, basically, Ceausescu, Romania, sort of. I mean, Museveni is another world. So the expectation, and that's, I think, what people probably like President Uhuru doesn't like, is that the expectation of the Kenyan citizen, we are too demanded, because we have a very progressive constitution that took a lot of time, in terms of the struggle to get it. I mean, Uganda is very different because of, it's a militarized sort of democracy, that they have their own BBI very soon, which they want to change into a parliamentary system, so that it is easier for someone to become a prime minister. They are adding, like, the president and the prime minister tried this 70 constituency. There's a similar move that's about to happen in Uganda, so that certain regions of the country have a lot of MPs. Then they go a parliamentary democracy. Then the prime minister becomes, elected by MPs. So, I mean, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, we are on a different, standing on a different constitutional pedestal. But I think, to be fair, despite all the challenges we are facing, Kenya is very, very advanced in terms of, where we are, in terms of, a robust judiciary, an independent press, a citizen that is, questioning everything. I mean, you can't do that in Magufuli's Tanzania or Yoweri Museveni's Uganda. Yes.
So, Prof, you agree?
Well, I mean, let me say this. I mean, the problem of Uganda is actually Museveni. There was a time when Museveni was a solution to that country's problem after he took over the state in 1986. But then he overstayed. He is now a problem in that country. He has arrested the development, the political development of that country. And what I can see happening there is that the guy will die in office. And he will die in office without having prepared the ground for a transition that is smooth or that is democratic. It's really a tragedy, you know. I think, Ahmed, you should be more restrained in your celebration of Kenya vis-a-vis the other two East African states, Uganda and Tanzania. You and I know that Kenya is not really a nation. It's a collection of, disparate ethnic groups. That is not the case in Tanzania. The one thing Tanzanians have done that we have not done in Kenya is to build a nation. There is something called a Tanzanian. There is nothing called a Kenyan. In Kenya, we have Kikuyus, we have Kambas, we have Somalis, and so on and so forth. We have no Kenyans. In Tanzania, they have Tanzanians. Okay? In Uganda, also the problem of ethnicity is not as acute in Uganda as it is in Kenya. I do agree that Kenya has a very robust civil society and a raucous political system in which many changes have been achieved. I agree with you on that one. But I think we should be more circumspect when we celebrate Kenya compared to the other two East African states.
Okay, coming back to Kenya, what are your thoughts about the coronation of Speaker Justin Muturi by Gema? What are your thoughts?
No, I think I think everybody has his own formula in terms of how to pursue power. I met him actually in the Ruto's daughter's wedding, and I told him I was glad that he's back, because the last time I saw him, he was disappearing into a forest, and my fear was that he may get lost, like many people did. But I think, these are very interesting times, and don't blame Muturi for going back to Gema so that he can consolidate his power. Every serious presidential candidate in this country has an ethnic power base. If you go to Kalonzo Musyoka, if you go to Raila, if you go to Deputy President, if you go to the President himself, everybody first goes to his tribe, he gets the stamp of approval, then he goes to the rest of the country to build a coalition. So if he can, if he can become, the Gema kingpin, that is a good thing for him. Yes.
Yeah. By the way, yeah. So first of all, Jeff, the word coronation is a very bad word. The word coronation should not be used in the same sentence with democracy. And this notion of people disappearing into the forest. What are we? Are we living in the dark ages? Going to the forest to do what? With a bunch of men there who call themselves elders? This is primitive stuff. We should not even entertain it. But beyond that, Mr. Muturi is not going anywhere. Mr. Muturi is not going anywhere. No person in the Mount Kenya region has arisen from the eastern side of the mountain to become a kingpin of the region. And Mr. Muturi, don't forget, is not elected. And he cannot really be elected himself on his own accord. The guy is a mediocre political figure in Kenya's history. He's not going to go anywhere. The reason why Mr. Muturi is being mentioned, it's only because after 2022, the Mount Kenya region will not have an ethnic kingpin. There will be no one in the Mount Kenya region to be a kingpin. No one. And for the first time, the Kikuyu will be free of kingpins after 2022. Free of kingpins. And we should all celebrate that. And they'll stop voting like a block. And I also hasten to add, if Mr. Odinga does not become the president in 2022, he too will cease being the Luo kingpin. The same is true of Mr. Musyoka. The Kambas are tired of Mr. Musyoka. If he cannot bring the presidency to Ukambani in 2022, he is finished. Okay? And so we also know that in Western Kenya, among the Luya, that, Mr. Mudavadi or Mr. Wetangula and these characters, they have no punches. They cannot command the entire group. So what I'm trying to say is that after 2022, in fact, we are going to see the withering away, okay, the end of ethnic kingpins in Kenya by the gravitational pull of history. It will just happen because it's happening, because these people will no longer be on the political stage, and no one will be able to command these groups the way these guys have commanded it before. So we should in fact celebrate what's going to happen after 2022. Mr. Ruto, on the other hand, will be the only kingpin in the country for the Kalenjin. But the way the politics of kingpin works, it works only when you have other kingpins to trade with. So Mr. Ruto, even if he will be the kingpin of the Kalenjin, he will have no counterparts to trade with. And so therefore, his being a kingpin of the Kalenjin will be all for naught.
All right, Prof, we'll have to leave it at that for you. Grand Mullah, I'll give you the last word. By the way, you said you were at the wedding? I thought it was invite only.
He's my neighbor, so I was invited. Why not?
That's a good answer. Does that mean that you're very close to him, or?
Neighbors are close. Why not? Are you not close with your neighbor? Your next door neighbor, you know the guy, the guy you share a fence.
So you share a fence with him?
Yes, yes.
All right. How was the wedding?
I think it was very nice, very fantastic, low key, but it was very good.
Yeah. Do you agree that he's the next kingpin?
I think so. I mean, he's a kingpin for his community, just like we have kingpins for other communities. I disagree with him that kingpins will be dead. I mean, from 1963 to now, every ethnic group in Kenya had a kingpin, and we will continue with that political arrangement into the distant future. Yes.
Guess we'll have to leave it at that. The tweets have come in too thick and too fast. I can't go to them. We'll just have to keep reading, keep tweeting, and we'll run out of time. Prof, it's been a pleasure, as always. Thank you from your listening post in Buffalo, New York.
It's been wonderful, Jeff, and I'm coming to Kenya hopefully in the next month or so, and I look forward to seeing all of you, and hopefully we can come to the studio so I can box Grand Mullah, in person.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Welcome. We'll wait for you. Safe journey.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, really a pleasure.
My pleasure.
An honor to be with you tonight.
Grand Mullah. All right, thank you so much for joining us, folks. It's been, wow, one epic JKLive. Grand Mullah, as always.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you. Keep tweeting at Kenyatta Jeff at Citizen TV Kenya. Hashtag JKLive. Good night. Good luck. God bless this country of ours, folks, going forward. God bless us all.